Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Diaries of an Outcast podcast. I'm your host, The Day J. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. So, if you clicked on this video, you're probably wondering why the excuses you are making to yourself are keeping you stuck, why it's keeping your life bland and boring, and why you just can't seem to hit any of your goals. Trust me, I know it can be so frustrating. You literally get frustrated with yourself. And we're going to talk about that today. But first, in the beginning of each of my podcast episodes, since my podcast is really new and fresh, I like to give a bit of a description of what my podcast is about and what value I am trying to bring here on YouTube to my community. So, in my podcast, everything or most of the things I talk about will be revolving around feeling like an outcast. And when I say an outcast, I don't mean like in my life I was like rejected from society or I didn't have any friends. It's just that I genuinely in my life, all my life, have felt like an outcast one way or another. I just feel like often I have like a different opinion or perspective than my peers. And one like great example is that I talk a lot about personal development and I think a lot about it. And a lot of my peers just aren't doing that. Like they might be thinking about it, they might be like watching videos on it, but they don't necessarily talk about it in like day-to-day conversations. And I'm the type of person where like if I'm hanging out with a friend and we're having fun, like talking about personal development is fun to me. And so I'm just that type of person. I'm that type of friend. And a lot of people my age just aren't like that. Also, um, feeling like an outcast is also tied in with being a multiracial person. I feel like growing up, I feel like people, especially like younger people, middle school, early high school, people usually gravitate towards people who are of the same ethnicity, and usually groups are majority one ethnicity. And so being a multi-race person, like I felt like I couldn't fit into one group, or I felt like I was either too preppy for one group or too ghetto, as I would say, for another. So yeah. Also, coming from generations of poverty, I feel like has uniquely shaped me with certain perspectives and insights that I would love to share with you guys. And also just being like a first generation college student and navigating that. Um, and also just like I talk a lot about society, social media and trends, and my perspectives on those things as well. So I talk a lot about what? I talk about a lot of things here on my podcast, but just remember everything is being tied to being an outcast, feeling like an outcast. Yeah, so that's where I kind of got my name from. That's the vibe. That's the vibe. So let's begin to talk about the stuff that made you click on this video in the first place. So, part one, the types of excuses that we make. Now, there are a plethora of excuses that we make to ourselves every single day. Okay, I just before filming, I was trying to make excuses of why I couldn't film and I should just chill and I have time tomorrow. No, we're getting this up, we're getting this out, babe, we're doing it, okay? But again, there is a plethora of excuses we can make. This list is just, I feel like, the most prominent, and the excuses that we make the most often. So yeah, let's get into it. Type of excuse number one, excuse around time. I don't have time today, or I'll have time tomorrow to do it, or I feel like I never have time, right? Have you ever said one of those things? I know I have. I just said it today. I said I'd have time tomorrow to film. Well, girl, you got time today. It's interesting because often the things that we keep pushing off are really the things that are going to up level us. So one example I'm going to be using throughout this video is starting a YouTube channel. I know there are multiple people who watch my channel who want to start a YouTube channel. There's multiple of my friends and just associates, and just I know a lot of people who want to start a YouTube channel or who just want to be a content creator. So I'm going to be referring to that in this video, but please just remember that this can be anything. This can be working on getting a new role or position in a company. It can be working on getting hired for a certain position for a company that you're not even in yet. It can be training for a marathon. It can be beginning to eat more balanced. It can literally be anything you're trying to work on, accomplish, or do. So yes, excuses around time. Again, it's so interesting because the things that we often make excuses about are things that are going to take our life to the next level, that are going to level us up, and that genuinely are going to actually make us feel really fulfilled, because this is something that, again, is going to really up level us and bring more value to our lives, right? I found out that around 40% of what we do every day is habit. So, getting up and brushing your teeth, or, showering, or maybe you make food at a certain time. A lot of the things we do in our day-to-day life are out of habit. So, the other 60% is kind of just things that are maybe spontaneous, or just different things that you don't do every single day. And so that big chunk of 60% you can take control of, and you can start to, like, you can really realize that you actually have time in your day. And that 60% of time that is, not habit, as they say, that can be, some of that time can be used to work towards your goal. And I get it. I really, really do. Like, it can genuinely feel like you don't have time in the day. Like, I really do feel like that a lot. But when I start feeling like that, I just have to, like, do an exercise, which I will talk about in a little bit in this video. I have to do that exercise to just kind of literally remind myself that, like, girl, you actually do have time. You just have to make it and be smart about where you are putting your energy to, right? So let's move on to excuse number 2. Excuses around resources. So this can be money, materials, equipment, maybe resources as far as, like, people, like connections. I guess that could be a resource in a way. And many of you guys want to be YouTubers, but you keep saying, like, you don't have the time to, like, learn how to do it. You don't have the time to, like, film and edit. You don't have the money to get the camera and the tripod and the lights and all of this stuff. You don't have the money, you don't have the time. Okay. Let me tell you, I felt like this for so long too. When I started my YouTube channel back in the beginning of 2023, I was not consistent because I kept telling myself that I didn't have time to be consistent. Fast forward a year and a few months to now, I have a more busier schedule than I did when I started, but I still managed to upload every single week, except last week, because life's been crazy, okay? But again, like, that tells a lot, that I'm busier now and that I'm actually able to still be consistent, whereas back then I was not as busy as I am now, and I was not able to be consistent. So I really think it's a mind thing. I really think it's about really showing yourself that you do have the time. Maybe you just need to cut out scrolling on social media, or, or watching Netflix. Trust me, like, I really get it. Like, I don't scroll on TikTok, but I watch a lot of YouTube videos, especially long form YouTube videos. And so that can take anywhere from 30 minutes of my day to 4 hours of my day if I don't, get on top of that and realize, like, girl, you cannot be spending 4 hours on YouTube, okay? So it's funny because when I started a year ago, when I started YouTube, even prior to starting, I had the same equipment I have now. I had a tripod, I had my phone, and I had a ring light. And at one point, I was just so in my head, I feel like I could not start a channel unless I had a camera. Even though so many creators on YouTube who, like, post videos of, like, how to become a YouTuber, they tell you that you do not need a camera, especially in the beginning. If you haven't even filmed one video, you don't even know if you're gonna like it for real. So why are you trying to spend all that money on equipment? Try it out with what you have first. Also, I felt like a fraud in a way. Like, when I first started YouTube, I guess when I first started being consistent a few months ago, I felt like a fraud because, again, I didn't have the camera, even though I knew in my head, like, girl, like, you can film off of your iPhone and be just fine. But I genuinely just feel like I felt like a fraud at one point, because I'm like, no, like, real YouTubers are supposed to have a camera and all of these certain materials, but it's just so not true. Like, you can create a masterpiece with an iPhone and decent lighting and good audio, compared to someone who has the best camera, the best lighting, the best audio, It literally does not matter. What matters the most, I would say, is sound and the content, the value that you are bringing. Now for excuse number 3. It be having me in a chokehold, okay? This is excuses around your knowledge on a given topic, on whatever you're trying to do, execute, whatever. So again, I'm going to be referring to YouTube. So excuses around knowledge and like how to start a YouTube channel. We all know knowledge is power, and knowledge is what is going to help us perform well in a given thing, right? So it's normal to want to know as much as you can before you pursue an endeavor. It's just, that's natural. I think that's good to want to feel confident and knowledgeable about something. But I really feel like sometimes, not all the time, we can downplay how much we actually know about a given topic. So it can be very easy and possible to get in this cycle where you're doing like this never ending learning on a topic. You're doing so much learning, like, but you're not actually executing. Like, learning is great if you just want to learn about the topic. But if you want to actually act on that thing and do something within that topic, of course it's great to learn about it, but you're going to have to execute it at some point. And so again, with all of these excuses, like, I'm not like bagging on you, because I literally do this too, especially this one, because like a personal story for me is like around personal styling. This is something that like I'm in middle of learning about right now, and it's not even that I can't necessarily even act on it now, like have my personal styling business, because I just am too busy with school and all of that. But there came a point where I got this amazing opportunity to be on set and to style for a magazine. And at first, I thought about saying no to this opportunity, because I felt like if I said yes, I would literally be a fraud. I felt like I didn't know enough. But then I had to remind myself, like, they wouldn't have even asked me to do this if they didn't think I knew enough, if they didn't think I was knowledgeable enough. So why am I like bringing myself down? Why am I downplaying what I actually know? And when I logically know that I spent hours on end studying a certain topic and I still am downplaying myself, like, girl, stop it. Stop it. And for most things, I would say all things, like, there's always going to be more you need to know. There's always going to be more information about something. And so, and things are always changing on top of that. So you can learn one thing about a topic one day, and the next thing, that thing changes, and you got to relearn. And so understanding that like you cannot be in this never-ending cycle of learning and not executing. I will say, like, you should always be learning, always up leveling in a certain area, but don't get in that trap of just learning, not executing. Because I've done that so many times when it comes to YouTube. So now that I have walked you all through what are the main excuses that we are making to ourselves in our day-to-day lives, I feel like the logical next step is to understand how can we combat these excuses, especially when they're so prominent, when they're so just stopping us from doing these amazing things. So here is what I have for timing excuses, and I kind of already touched on some of this, but I'm going to say it again because it's so important. Recognize that you're always going to feel like you don't have time to do something. Like, you're always going to feel like that. It never goes away. And recognize that, yes, you need to prioritize your job, your family, and your social life. That is very important, but you should also really be prioritizing the things that are going to up level you and your life. Because when you up level, when your life up levels, your job up levels, your relationships up levels, your social life up levels. So it's really a trickle down effect, and it's so worth it to prioritize these things. Now, you're probably wondering, like, okay, like, I still feel like I don't have enough time. How do I begin to even think about prioritizing these things? Well, make a list of the things that you want to start working on. Make a list of those things. I would say don't write down no more than 3 things. I would say that's even a lot. I would say start with 1 to 2. It's important to think about these things and then to think about, for you to feel satisfied, how many minutes. It can be 10, it can be 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, or how many hours a day. Just depends on what your schedule is like, what you can, implement into your daily life, or how many hours a week. So you can go by the day, you can go by the week. How many hours or minutes, again, like I said, will you spend on these tasks or these goals that you want to work on? How much time will you spend on these things? And it's important to put that piece of satisfaction in there, because you can work on something for 5 minutes a day but not really feel satisfied. So maybe bump it up to 10 minutes a day. Or maybe, maybe you do 3 hours a week, but you break it up into increments. Sorry. So from there, I think it's easiest to write out your day-to-day schedule for every day of the week. And then for each day, see where you have little time slots. Because I think we underestimate how much free time we actually have. Again, 5, 10, 15 minutes. If you have that, in between times, like, try to, scoot something in there. And again, I want to be very clear, like, don't burn yourself out, because that can be easy to do too as well. So it's so hard to balance everything in life, and anyone will tell you that, but try to balance it, and I think that's where you'll see some good results. So again, just to recap, make a list of the things that you want to start doing. Write down your day-to-day schedule for each day of the week, and then identify little time slots where you can start working on these things and implement them into your schedule. Again, it doesn't have to be daily, but one thing I will say is that if you do work on a bigger goal for small increments of time daily, I think that will make you more satisfied than doing like 3 days a week, 2 days a week. I think it's just a mind thing, and like just knowing that you're working on something bit by bit each day will help you keep pushing forward. Now for the resource excuses. Before I get into this, I want to again, I said it earlier, but I'm like, it's so real. Like, you need to have money to do most things in this world. You need to have energy to do things in this world. And for a lot of things, you do need certain equipment and materials. But also for a lot of things, you don't need certain equipments and materials to just start out. So again, pertaining to YouTube, when I first started, I felt like I needed a camera, I needed a tripod, all of this stuff. But actually, I didn't, because I'm here today filming without any of that. So understanding that, it's important to actually just try the thing out, get a grasp and a feel for what it's like before spending a ton of money on it, because you don't even know if you're going to like it. Like, you might see people doing YouTube and it looks cool, looks fun, it's cute, period. But then once you do it, you film and you edit all of that, and maybe you find out it's not for you. So if you haven't even filmed one video yet, and I would say even if you're on your first 5 videos, I would say don't even invest in a camera or certain equipment yet. Make sure you really know this is what you really love to do before you invest. Truly, 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 please. Because for example, here's an example. I'm a pretty spiritual person, and I remember back in 2020 when crystals and all of that type of stuff was really popular in the mainstream, and just all that spiritual stuff. And I am naturally a spiritual person, social media or not. But it's funny, because when I first started getting into spirituality, I feel like in order to actually be spiritual, I needed to buy the crystals, I needed to buy the books. And I quickly realized that girl, you don't even like that stuff. I don't I'm spiritual, but I'm not into the crystals and all of that. And I spent a lot of money on that. And so I realized girl, you just wasted your money on something that you don't even necessarily care for. But if I would have waited that out and just tapped into my natural spirituality, how I want to exude my spirituality, if I would have tapped into that sooner and would have waited and not followed what I saw people doing, I would have saved a lot of money. Okay. So, yeah, please just wait it out, try it out, and see how you feel. If you really love it, then yeah, maybe invest a little money into it. The other thing I would say for resource excuses is to maybe try and find a mentor who's into whatever you're trying to do. Not only is having just a mentor in life an amazing, amazing, amazing thing, and I'm speaking from experience, because having someone to look up to, having someone to get advice from, and having someone who is interested in the same things that you are is so, so powerful. You can feel so disconnected and alone sometimes when you feel like there's no one around you who's like into the things you're into, or maybe you come from generations of poverty and there's not a ton of successful people in your family to get advice from. And so having a mentor can be so powerful in that way, as a resource to just help guide you in just life, I would say, and in that thing that you're trying to pursue. And, I would say expressing to people what is this thing you want to do. So if you want to do YouTube, like, express that to people. Let people know, just so they have the idea in their head, so that when you actually do it, they're like, oh yeah, she said she wants to do that, and she's doing it. That's super cool. Not only that, but also, I recognize, like, in the last couple years, there are so many people out here in different fields who just want to help other people who are interested in their field get in wherever they can get in. Like, there's so many people out here who just want to help people because they were once in your shoes. And it's not about using people. It's not about just befriending someone or just talking to someone just to get information out of them or resources. No. What you have to realize is that, like, all relationships are transactional in a way. And so it's not about using people. It's about gaining genuine connections. And I believe that the connections that you make, you should be bringing value. They should be bringing value. And so maybe, reaching out to people who are doing what you want to do and asking them, like, hey, like, how do I get into this? Because I guarantee you there is someone out there that would be more than willing to help you. And again, removing that mindset of, like, you feel like you're using people or you're bothering them, because no, like, you have to learn from somewhere. And I feel like people are the best somewhere to learn from, especially people who are doing what you're doing or did what you want to do. Okay, it was just a lady yelling at her kids outside. That was a little scary. Okay, anyway, child. Knowledge excuses. The excuses we make around the knowledge we have. How can we combat this? So, first of all, and I'm speaking to myself, I've been speaking to myself really this whole time. Stop trying to know every single thing down to the T about a topic, because trust me, there will always be more to learn. Okay? Please. Please, please, please. Also, this is like an actual tangible thing that you can actually do. Before beginning to learn about something, set kind of like a baseline for yourself. Like, here's everything I want to know before starting. And once I know all of these things, I'm going to execute. Because if you don't set that, like, baseline for yourself, and I don't even know if you call it a baseline, but that's the word I'm going for. I hope you guys know what I mean. But if you don't set that baseline for yourself, I feel like you never know where to stop, and you never know, like, how much knowledge you actually need to begin. So I think it's important to maybe, like, brainstorm what are the most important things I feel like I need to know and feel confidently knowledgeable about before I begin executing on this thing. It's also important to remember, like, just because you started executing on that thing doesn't mean you stop learning. You do continue learning. It's just that you are learning while executing at the same time. And maybe, you learn a new thing and you implement that thing and you continue to up level whatever you're doing because you're continuing to learn. And it's interesting because usually when you're, like, pretty knowledgeable, or like when you're really knowledgeable about something, people will tend to ask you things pertaining to that thing because they see you as a knowledgeable figure within that topic. And so maybe just realizing, like, are there certain, like, things that people are always asking you revolving around a certain topic? For me, it's fashion. People are always asking me like about fashion advice, what they should wear to, their birthday, or does this look good? Does that look good? What do you think? Around fashion. And that's because people think that I'm very knowledgeable around fashion. And I think that I am pretty knowledgeable, but I think I could be more. And again, that's that mindset. I feel like it's never going to go away, especially when like you're someone who is a lifelong learner and you feel like there's always more to know. The mindset is not going to go away, but remind yourself that you have to execute. You have to execute at a certain point. And that's why setting that baseline for yourself of what you should know before executing is so important. So like, again, like a personal example for me is like all of like 2022, I was watching all the YouTube videos about how to start a YouTube channel. All of them. Probably every last single one, and I was taking notes all of 2022. I probably could have like studied per se how to start a YouTube channel for like a month, and then I could have done it. But instead, I literally chose to take the entire of 2022 and learn about how to start a YouTube channel. And I will say a lot of that time was wasted because a lot of what I was learning were things that I weren't even like, were processes or steps that I weren't even at yet. Like I didn't even start. I haven't even pressed record yet. I haven't even recorded one video yet. So why am I trying to learn about like descriptions and like certain like hashtags to put in descriptions, like certain little things like that I was trying to learn about that really didn't even matter to like actually starting. And I think there's like so many little things to like up level a certain thing. Like for example, for YouTube, there's so many little things to like up level your video, the audio, the audio, the lighting, the camera, the text or visuals within your video, the title, the description. All of that can up level your video. But if you're trying to be the best person at every single one of these things, you're never gonna start. And that's what I was trying to do at first. And I just had to realize like, girl, like you're not going to know and be the best at all of these things. And that's okay because we learn as we go. Yes, we learn as we go. And it's very honestly like empowering because with learning as you go, you get to implement new things, try new things out, and up level as you go. And I think for me personally, that just keeps me pushing. So in each and every video, I try to add one more thing that's going to make it better. And doing that has really just made me very motivated to film and to edit and to just show up better each time. So, yeah. I hope that wasn't too much information. I hope you guys were taking notes. I probably should have said that in the beginning because I feel like that was a lot. Yeah, I feel like that was a lot. But anyways, I'm so sorry for missing last week's episode. Life has been insane, but I promise I will notify you guys if I ever have to take a break. From uploading a certain week. Like I will let you guys know. I did not let you guys know last week, and that was so lame of me. But yeah, life has been crazy. But yeah, once this podcast episode is uploaded on my channel, a week from that day, I will have a regular YouTube video uploaded. I really, really hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode. Leave me in the comments, questions, comments, any critiques that you have. I'm always willing to like hear about any critiques that you have for my video, the look of it, the structure, the audio, all of that. I want to hear it. Comment it, DM me on Instagram because it is so important to me to make these videos the best I can for you guys and to make them just the most watchable. And so yeah, I am so willing to hear any critiques you may have. Also, just thank you for watching all the way through. You are a real one. Anyways, I'll see you guys in my next YouTube video. Love you. Bye.